And we found that success comes in cycles. Turn to the back of one of the pages in your book. We found that success tends to come in cycles, and there are 9 phases. How many phases, please?
9.
Thank you. There are 9 phases to the success cycle. And if you think back to all the different achievements in your life, you'll probably recognize each of the phases. And it could be that you're going through different phases in different areas of your life right now. The first phase is simply called the call. What's it called, please?
Call.
What's it called?
Call.
And this is when you feel that overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, I need to do this. Maybe it's become wealthy so that you can help more people. Maybe it's learn how to stand up on stages just like this. Maybe it's write a book. Maybe it's whatever it is. Maybe it's to go and get a degree, a medical degree, so you can open up this crazy, awesome medical practice. Whatever it is, that's the call. Again, that's when you feel that burst of emotion like, oh my goodness, I need to do that. Who knows what I'm talking about? Say yes.
Yes.
And there are different things that people do. Unfortunately, most people ignore the call because it either doesn't make sense, it doesn't seem doable, it doesn't seem to pertain to them, or they're scared. Who knows what I'm talking about? Please put your phones away. Thankfully, there are people that take action. My friends, when you receive a call, the very first thing to do is to respond. What is it, please?
Respond.
Thank you. Which means taking immediate action. Doing what, please?
Taking immediate action.
Because how many of you know what I'm talking about? How many of you have ever felt that call, felt that overwhelming impression that you needed to do something, and you put it off, and then you realize that the opportunity was no longer there? Who knows what I'm talking about? Say yes.
Yes.
When the call comes, you must take action immediately. When, please?
Immediately.
Because if you don't, that call is going to go to someone else. Who knows what I'm talking about? How many of you have ever noticed that a lot of times throughout history, world-changing, life-changing inventions like the telephone, the printing press, the automobile, that there are several people, usually all at once, that claim to have invented that one thing? Who knows what I'm talking about? Say yes.
Yes.
And how come that's true? Why could that be? Shout some things out.
Because it's a consciousness idea.
It's a consciousness idea. Why else?
It was needed then.
It was needed then, yeah.
Energy constantly moves throughout the universe.
Absolutely. And I like to imagine that there's like an inspiration department in the sky. Everyone say, hi, inspiration department.
Hi, inspiration department.
And they're very generous with ideas. And they need people that are going to take action. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Are there certain things in the world now that are here because somebody took action on them?
Yes.
Yes, again, those things are like the printing press, the telephone, the automobile, the airplane, the internet. Now, the thing is, a lot of times, those ideas will go to multiple people at once. And the answer why is because hopefully at least one person actually takes action on it. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Probably a lot of other people could have taken responsibility and gotten credit for those amazing inventions. Those life-changing inventions that literally changed the whole world. But they didn't actually take action on it. True or true?
True.
Over the next 3 days, it's very likely you will receive at least one call. Does this make sense?
Yes.
My friends, when that happens, write it down. Do what?
Write it down.
And take immediate action. When, please?
Immediate action.
Thank you. Tell the person next to you, you got to take immediate action. Grab the arm of the person next to you. Give them a shake. And say, when you get the call, you got to move now. Grab the arm of the other person next to you. Shake them a little harder. When you get the call, take action immediately. Give me a high five and say you're a master creator. The next phase is what we call the honeymoon. What's it called? Honeymoon. Thank you. And this is right after you've taken action. You've responded to a call. And this is that period where you feel like you are on cloud 9. On what, please? Cloud 9. Now, can we see this in actual marriage honeymoons? Yes?
Yes.
They've taken the call, they've responded to it, and they have made commitments to each other. Yes?
Yes.
And for a certain period of time, can anything get them down? No. Their spouse could do the most egregious of sins, like leaving the toilet seat up. And will that bother them? No. The key of how to respond when you're in the honeymoon phase is take as much action as possible to build momentum. Build what, please? Momentum. Thank you. Again, the honeymoon phase is when you feel this like, oh my gosh, I'm on cloud 9. This is when you, again, maybe you sign up for a mentoring program. Maybe you start that business. Maybe you meet that special someone and you feel that amazing euphoria, that amazing feeling of being on cloud 9. Again, the key while you're in the honeymoon phase is to take as much action as possible to build as much momentum as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Tell the person next to you, you got to build momentum. Give your neighbor a high five and say, that sounds great to me. Now, the only problem with the honeymoon is it doesn't last. Some people's honeymoon phase may last a few months. Some people's honeymoon phase may last a few years. Some people's honeymoon phase may last a few seconds. How many of you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Because after the honeymoon phase wears off, that's when they experience opposition. What's the word?
Opposition.
And this happens every single time. Yes or yes?
Yes.
How many married people do we have in the room? How many of you would agree that if you've been married longer than about 10 seconds, you've experienced some opposition? Yes?
Yes.
And the unfortunate truth is, most people spend their life jumping from honeymoon to honeymoon to honeymoon to honeymoon. And the second opposition hits, they quit. True or true? True. In fact, I heard recently a really interesting phenomenon that people can literally get married in certain areas with the agreement that they can, quote, check it out for a month. And if it isn't absolutely everything that they thought it was going to be, they both mutually agree to divorce. Now, a lot of people are shaking their heads. Do people do that with business? Yeah. How many of you have that one friend that every month they have a new network marketing company they join? Do people do that with their fitness? How many of you know someone that every month they have a new diet they've started? Yeah, my friends, when the opposition hits, you must keep going. Yes or yes?
Yes.
And opposition can come in a lot of different forms, can't it? How might opposition show up? Shout some things out. Fear, doubt, other humans,
Health breakdown.
pain, health breakdown,
Unworthy.
obstacles, feeling unworthiness, discouragement. How many of you have experienced any one of those or all of them? Say yes.
Yes.
And the one thing that is needed to get through the opposition, write this word down, is determination. What is it, please?
Determination.
What's the word?
Determination.
Twice as loud.
Determination.
Thank you. And write a slash next to that. And write commitment. What's the word?
Commitment.
What's the word?
Commitment.
Twice as loud?
Commitment.
There's a major difference between married couples that are simply checking things out and married couples that are absolutely committed. Yes or yes?
Yes.
What are the differences? Shout some things out. What do they do differently? Loyalty, keep going. They work. When things are out of order, they put them in order. Yes or yes?
Yes.
When Heather and I got married, we made ourselves a promise. We didn't get married to get divorced. And so we thought about it. We got pretty close. We hit rock bottom in our marriage. But we realized that we had made a commitment to each other. Yes or yes?
Yes.
And so when the opposition hit, we decided to stick it out and simply fix what was broken, as this make sense. And so grab the arm of the person next to you. Give them a shake. Say, you gotta be determined and committed. Including in this class. Give me a high five and say, you're a master trader. Because eventually, what happens is phase 4, which we affectionately call the chasm. What's it called? Chasm. And this is a really nice way of saying some interesting things that happen. You experience some sort of setback, some sort of challenge that it never even dawned on you that you would hit that challenge. And you're going, where did this come from? I didn't sign up for this. Like, no one ever told me. This wasn't in the manual of how to grow my business. I didn't know that I would have to go through this. Does this make sense? Who knows what I'm talking about? Say yes.
Yes.
Again, regardless of which area you're focusing on, again, whether it's your faith, your fitness, your family, your finances, your fulfillment, eventually you're going to hit some sort of snap that you had no idea was coming. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Who's experienced that before? Say yes.
Yes.
And the one thing that you must do is listen to a mentor. Listen to who?
Mentor.
Thank you. Talk to someone who has been there before. Talk to someone who has what you desire, that was where you are and now is where you want to be. Does this make sense?
Yes.
The mistake that a lot of people make when they hit the chasm is they try to logic their way through the chasm. They say, well, I just need to figure things out. Problem with that. If you've never been at this level before, do you have the logic that it takes to get to this level? No. The only people that have the logic of this level are the people that are where? At that level. True or true?
True.
This is why people that, quote unquote, think about things, people that are like, well, I just need to figure things out for myself, never reach that new level because it's literally impossible to logic your way to a new level. The only way to get to that level is by following the logic of someone who is where? There or beyond, yes or yes?
Yes.
This is why it is so critical to always have a mentor. To always have a what, please?
Mentor.
Grab the arm of the person next to you. And say, you gotta always have a mentor. Give your neighbor a high five and say, you're a creator. Oh, but Eric, mentors can be expensive. Mentors can be really expensive. Like the best mentors, they can cost a lot of money. But Eric, like, if I really want to hire a millionaire mentor, they're going to charge me lots of money. Here's the thing. Which one costs more? Hiring a mentor or staying ignorant? That wasn't a rhetorical question. Which one costs more? How many of you are familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad? Quite a few of you. Robert is a very, very wealthy person. In fact, it's estimated that he makes, on average, $2 million per month passive income. And he does so primarily through his real estate investments, which he learned to do years ago by attending a $500 seminar. Now, back in those days, $500 was a lot of money, at least for certain people. And when he signed up, he contacted one of his associates and said, oh my gosh, you need to come with me to this seminar and learn how to do real estate with me. And that person, what do you think their first question was? How much is it? He said $500. And his reaction was, oh my gosh, I can't afford it. That's too much money. And so that friend didn't sign up for the seminar. Robert learned how to do real estate, and it turned into hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. $500, hundreds of millions. $500, hundreds of millions. Does this make sense? Yes. Because a mentor saves you a lot of time. Saves you what, please? Time. There are a lot of people that say, well, I just want to figure things out. Okay, you can. It can take you decades, 20, 30, 40 years of struggling and trying to figure things out. Or you can hire a mentor to just tell you how things are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I once paid a single mentor $100,000, which at that time I didn't have. We didn't have $100 grand sitting in our bank, but I knew that we wanted to. And so we borrowed a lot of money. I paid this person $100,000 because he's a multi-millionaire, and I paid him to teach me how to go from where I was to being a millionaire. And it didn't take very long. In fact, a year and a half later, I had turned that $100,000 into millions. Does this make sense? Because we had hit a chasm. We hit certain roadblocks that we didn't know how to overcome. And so I paid very, very handsomely to work with the very best. Does that make sense? I don't want to work with mediocre mentors because what type of results would I get? Here's the thing. Do not listen to people that don't have what you want. A lot of people say, well, I really wanted to go for that dream, but my parents told me not to. When people say things like that, I'll say, do your parents have what you want? Well, no. What do you want? I want to be wealthy. Are your parents rich? No, they're poor. Then why would you listen to them? Well, because, does that make sense? The only way to actually get to new levels, again, is by following the counsel of someone who is or beyond at those levels. Does this make sense? Tell the person next to you, you gotta have a mentor. Now, even with a mentor, that leads us to phase 5. Which of course is hard work. What is it?
Hard work.
There's really no way of sugarcoating it. The best things in life are worth working for. Yes or yes?
Yes.
How many of you like ever dreamed of achieving or having something, and you pictured how it would feel to have it, and then somebody just handed it to you? Anybody ever experienced something like that? How did it feel? Was it quite the same as if you had worked for it and actually achieved it? Now, how many of you ever did any type of sports, like tournament sports, like wrestling, martial arts, fencing, anything like that? A couple of you. How many of you at least know people like that? Where they have to go into these really long, rigorous tournaments, and hopefully they can stay in the tournament long enough to win first place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you think it would have felt the same winning first place had they simply walked in and the judge said, you know what, we're going to forfeit everybody else. Here's the first place trophy. Would that have felt the same? No. And unfortunately, a lot of people think, well, I hired that mentor. My life didn't change. Yeah, because you didn't change. Does that make sense? It's not the mentor's job to change your life. It's your job to implement what that mentor teaches you to do to then change your life. Does that make sense? There are a lot of people that even have paid very, very high amounts of money to go through top-level mentoring programs. And even with the investment that they made, they literally did nothing with it. And they say, well, gosh, that mentor didn't teach me anything. No, you chose not to learn anything. Does that make sense? Or you settled for knowing, but not doing or becoming. Are you with me? Yes. Again, step 5, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You've got to do the work. You've got to implement things. And yeah, it may seem pretty tough at times. And yeah, there are days when you're going to want to give up. But that actually leads us to phase 6. Which is endurance. What is it? Endurance. What's the word?
Endurance.
Thank you. A lot of times people will go through a mentoring program. They'll hire a mentor. They'll come to a class like this thinking that everything's going to happen instantaneously for them. How many of you know people like that? They're like, well, I went to that seminar and I wasn't a millionaire the next day. Duh! Tell the person next to you, duh! Or I hired that personal trainer and I didn't release 100 pounds by Tuesday. Does that make sense? Unfortunately, a lot of people have this crazy idea of instant gratification. Now, there are certain things that you can do to speed up the process. However, everyone has what's called a gestation period. What's it called, please?
Gestation period.
Thank you. And everyone has a different gestation period for the different parts of their life. For example, for one person, they may improve their finances very, very quickly, but their fitness doesn't improve until much later. Does that make sense? It could be totally the opposite for other people. How many of you have ever heard of the Chinese bamboo plant? Quite a few of you. If you're not familiar with it, this is a very, very unique plant because you do not see anything above the ground until 5 years after it's planted. You plant the Chinese bamboo seed and you have to water it and cultivate it for 5 years. And meanwhile, I can only imagine somebody having a dream to have a nice bamboo plant in their yard. And I can imagine them out there watering it, their friends coming by like, hey, how's that dream coming? Boy, you've been working on that for 3 years now. Boy, how come you haven't seen any results yet? Is this ringing true to anybody? Boy, you've been working on that business of yours. You've been working on that body of yours. You've been working on attracting the relationship that you've always wanted for all these years. Where are your results? And what those people don't realize is that for 5 whole years, that plant is literally cultivating its roots. Cultivating its what, please?
Roots.
Thank you. Doing things underground. And it isn't, again, until 5 years later that it sprouts above the ground. And once it does, it can grow 90 feet in 6 weeks. My friends, if you hire that mentor and you don't see instant results, one of two things could be happening. Either you're not implementing everything and actually becoming what you're hoping to become, or it could simply be that your gestation period hasn't completed yet. Now, when people hear gestation, most of the time we think of what? Birth. It's the process of baby. Creating and giving birth to babies. Yes or yes? Are there different gestational periods within the animal kingdom? Yes?
Yes.
In fact, there's a field mouse. Mama field mouse takes 19 days from conception to birth. 19 days to have that little field mouse come out. And this is why they create a lot of other field mice. Yes or yes? Yes. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, there comes a mama elephant. And Mama Elephant doesn't take 19 days to gestate her baby elephant. Mama Elephant takes 645 days to gestate her baby. The longest pregnancy in the animal kingdom. Now, can you imagine a Mama Elephant looking back at Mama Field Mouse and going, oh, wait a second. We both conceived on the exact same day. Well, how come she's got results and I haven't? When you think about elephants and field mice, it almost seems laughable, true or true. But do people do this with their goals? Yes. In fact, I tell people, and I could honestly say I released 60 pounds in 4 months. But it actually took me years and years and years of cultivating my roots. And I worked with some of the absolute best mentors and trainers. In fact, for 6 months, I worked out one-on-one with Mr. Universe. I hired a 21-time world bodybuilding champion to be my personal trainer, and I ended up gaining weight. And at the end of our time together, he sat me down and he said, Eric, I feel like I failed you. Goodness gracious, what happened? And I said, my dear friend, you didn't fail me. You taught me the lessons. You gave me the piece of the puzzle that I needed to gain from you. And now I need to go find the other pieces of the puzzle. It wasn't until I finally got all the pieces of the puzzle, for me personally, that I was able to put everything together. And within 4 short months, I was able to release those 60 pounds. And so I can honestly say that I did that in 4 months, and I can also honestly say that I did that in 5 years. Does that make sense? What was taking place during those 5 years? I was cultivating my roots. And so if things don't happen for you immediately, as long as you're putting in the effort, as long as you are doing the work, as long as you are implementing, transforming, doing, and becoming, eventually it has to happen. Does this make sense? Again, this is called the endurance phase. What's it called? Endurance. Now, phase 7 is by far the most difficult phase. Phase 7 is called the ultimate test. What's it called? Ultimate test. And it's when you experience the ultimate test that it seems like the entire world is crumbling around you. It seems like the very gates of hell have been unleashed to prevent you from reaching what it is you want to reach. It seems like everything is absolutely impossible, and in some cases you may actually dip into a deep level of depression as you go through the ultimate test. Another name for the ultimate test could be refiner's fire. A couple of years ago, our company had grown very, very quickly. In fact, as I mentioned, we increased our monthly income by over 100 times in 1 year alone, going from welfare to wealthy. And our business absolutely boomed. Well, because I was still brand new in business, I made a lot of mistakes. I still do, make mistakes every single day. But I made a lot of amateur rookie mistakes. And there are a number of people that actually came to events like this that decided to take some things that I had said and twist it. And they began to spread things on the internet about me that weren't true. In fact, it's not a secret. You can go online right now and you can look up my name and you'll find everything under the sun about me. In fact, there are people that say that I'm a manipulator. There are people that say I'm a fraud. There are people that say that I'm only money hungry, that I only want people's money and that I want people to suffer. I'm not making this up. Someone actually posted on the internet that I access people's energy and put curses on them. That's not hyperbole. They actually said that. That one actually made me laugh. And I joked around with Heather. I said, I took you to Harry Potter World earlier this year and we were playing around with the wand. I wonder if that's what happened. But I then received a letter in the mail from the state of Utah, from the Department of Public Licensing, saying, Eric, you've received complaints from this person and this person and this person and this person. And a number of them I had counted as some of my closest friends. People that I had employed, that I'd actually known for many, many years, and I had given a chance to help them fulfill their dreams, saying that I did this, saying that I did this, saying that I did this. And again, it's still available on the internet. It's no secret. I tell people, if you're the type of person that buys into gossip and rumors, go look it up, go have fun, have a nice day. If you're the type of person that doesn't get to know a person directly and form your own opinion, go have a nice day. This class isn't for you. And I almost had my business shut down. Now, I'm the type of person, how many of you are familiar with the love languages? Yeah, mine is what's called words of affirmation, which means I'm a recovering people pleaser. Anybody else? And the interesting thing about love languages is whatever your love language is, the exact opposite tends to be what hurts you the most. Does that make sense? And so, for example, a person whose love language is loving touch, if they were to experience some sort of physical abuse, yes, it would hurt physically, but it would be devastating emotionally. Does that make sense? And so if my love language is words of affirmation, words of criticism tend to be what hurt the most. Especially when I was getting started. I started receiving my very first 1-star reviews. And I thought, I put my whole heart and soul into this person. Yes, this person paid me, but oh my gosh, I tried to give them 10 times the value. And what's this person talking about? This person increased their income by 20 times in the 6 months that we worked together. Why is this person saying this about me? And I actually had a mentor that I was working with at the time, whom I literally idolized. I had gone to this person's seminar a couple of years earlier, and I saw this person on stage. And I turned to Heather and I said, Heather, that man has what I want. And I had the privilege of spending some time with him. And I said, I would give anything to spend more time with this person. And so I ended up paying this person $25,000 to mentor me one-on-one. And I became his top student. My income skyrocketed, my business skyrocketed. And he actually had me on his stage a number of times, and he doesn't do that. He actually gave me a cheap mic. And he doesn't give people cheap mics, except for me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I finally have acceptance. I'm finally good enough because this person that I idolize wants me to be there. This person that I idolize that subconsciously represented deity to someone who had experienced major loss, major abandonment, major hurt in his life. I finally had acceptance. I was finally good enough. Until the messages started coming to him. Until those people that were saying bad things about me started contacting him and saying, well, because you trained Eric, you must be terrible too. And the day came when he said, I need to meet with you right now. I went to his office and he said, Eric, this is what's happening. Didn't give me a chance to explain. Didn't ask me what was happening. Just told me the allegations, didn't ask me if they were true or not, which they weren't. But he said, Eric, you're no longer welcome here. We need to cut ties. And I came home that evening. That was the very first time in my life I'd ever said a prayer, please take my life. Because if I'm not good enough to even be with this person, I don't want to keep living. If I've supposedly hurt so many people, please just let them end. The world would be so much better off. I'd hit my ultimate test. Thankfully, I didn't die. In case you're curious. Surprise. Thankfully, the one person that got me through was Heather. Heather literally saved my life, whether she realized it or not. She was the one person that was unconditionally supportive. She came to me and she said, Eric, did you do this for those people? I said, no. She said, who are you doing this for? I said, for the people that I'm here to serve. She said, so people are saying crap about you. Who cares? Is what they're saying true? No. She said, Eric, if they wrote about you on the internet that you have terrible green hair, would it offend you? And I said, no. How come? Because that's absurd. She said, then why is all that offending you? And I said, oh, you're right. But there was a big part of me that was terribly afraid that everything that they were saying was true. And I later found this year, just a few months ago, that that was one of the major reasons why I kept excess body fat on me. Because of a terrible fear that once all of it was released, I would be quote unquote exposed as the fraud that they said that I was. And so to protect myself, I kept a lot of layers of body fat on me. It wasn't until I finally made a decision that it doesn't matter what happens, we're going to keep going. It doesn't matter what type of tests the world wants to throw at us, we're going to keep going. It doesn't matter what type of challenges we have to face, we're going to keep going because we love the people we're here to serve too much to stop. That's how you get to the ultimate test. You focus on the people whose lives you are here to serve. In fact, everyone close your eyes. And in your mind, allow yourself to get a very clear image of all the lives, all the people's lives that you are here to serve and influence for good. And when you get that image in your mind, raise your hand and hold it up. When you experience your ultimate test, put your hands down. When you experience your ultimate test, you are literally going to be stretched to your breaking point. And you're going to think that you cannot go on. When that happens, please get the image of those people whose lives you are here to touch in your mind. And the people whose faces I saw when I did this first were actually my children and my future children. And I remembered that Heather wants to have like a bajillion kids. And so I remember that there are still several lives who were not here yet, several people who weren't born yet. And if I stopped, they wouldn't have the chance to be born. Or they would go to someone else. I don't know how that works. And that was what got us through. That is what helped us to get through the ultimate test. You can open your eyes. And it's once you finally pass through the ultimate test that you get to phase 8. Which is receiving the reward. Receiving the reward. The what?
Reward.
It's once you finally pass through that ultimate test and learn the lessons from that test that the reward finally comes. That the pressure finally lets off. And that you finally realize we've done it. When the letters and messages started coming in saying, Eric, thank you so very much for your book. You literally saved my life. That's when I realized we got through the ultimate test. When people contacted me and said, I listened to your audio and it helped me to overcome this addiction that I had. That's when I realized I got through the ultimate test. When I could finally look at myself in the mirror and like what I saw. That's when I realized we got through the ultimate test. And that's when the reward finally came. My friends, things might seem hard. Things might seem like the world is against you. And they might be. I think of the greatest men and women to ever walk the earth. Did they experience some opposition? Did they have people that didn't like them? In fact, the greatest man who ever lived, a person that I look up to as my savior, is the most cursed name on this planet. And I can only imagine what the greatest men and women, what would have happened had they given in when they faced their ultimate test. My friends, wrap your arm around the person next to you. Bring him in close. And say, by the way, you're going to experience an ultimate test. And so will I. Don't worry. Eric's going to teach you some tools. And so even though it's still going to suck, it's going to suck a little less. And by the way, I love you enough. I'll support you through it. I'll cry with you. I'll laugh with you. And we'll grow together. Now clasp the hands of the two people next to you. And say, I'm here for you. We can do it. Because then once we do it, we get the reward. I like rewards. Give a neighbor a high five and say, you're a master creator. And that's when you receive phase 9, which is a call to move up a level. And then you get to repeat it. Say, yay! Yay! Because what happens is, a lot of times you are progressing when suddenly you feel like, wait a second, I feel like I'm going back to old habits. I feel like I'm going back to how things were. And you look around, you're like, but things aren't the way they were. Things are different. Progress tends to go in an upward spiral. What, please? Upward spiral. Take your finger just like this and say, upward spiral. Upward spiral. And there are times during that journey where you're going to spiral back to where you were up here. Yes or yes? Yes. Thankfully, you're at a higher level and thus deal with higher level problems. Yes or yes? Yes. Tell the person next to you, if you're going to have problems, they might as well be higher level problems. And you then, again, get to go through and get to higher and higher levels of success. My friends, stay committed. Stay on the path. Please continue onward. It is so worth it, yes or yes? Yes.